Welcome back in to D. Armstrong WLTZ Facebook Live. Do apologize for some of the hiccups we have. We had a couple of computer surges and they did some crazy things, but I got to get this interview in because you need to hear it and you need to tell somebody about this man who's joining us today. His name is Paul Austin, grew up on the streets of Columbus. He and his brother and several other brothers and sisters, and his brother's Paul Austin. You ever seen the movie? I mean, his brother is Dallas Austin. You ever seen the movie Drumline? That's his brother. Okay. Well, they grew up in Columbus, and Paul, I guess you can tell this man, you have a good heart, but we do things sometimes that betray our hearts. You grew up, you said you had a good mom and a good dad, but somebody suggested you do something which led you onto a path. He eventually went to jail for something he did not commit. So let's go back. You're at what age when you made a decision, because they didn't force you to do it, but you listened to someone who told you to do something wrong? Who was that person? What did you do?
My cousin James, he was about 25 and I was 14, and he was into the drug game, and he knew that a lot of people liked me, so he basically convinced me to start selling drugs. And
At
I realized,
14 years old?
Yes.
What kind of cousin is that?
Not a loving cousin.
I'm telling you, a cousin who wanted some money.
Right.
Because that was a money decision.
Absolutely.
It was not a family decision. So at a very young age, 14 years old, where you're in the 9th grade, going to the 10th grade. So did you stay in school?
No, I decided to drop out of school because the glamour and the glory, you know, I had a car and just...
You're a young boy, car, afro,
right,
good clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Why go to school?
That's right. I was driving. I didn't even have a license, but
Wow.
just taking a chance.
So back then, what was the drugs? What were you selling?
Marijuana and speed, known as yellow jacket, and purple microdots.
Wow. Was heroin out there?
Yes.
A little heroin out there too. Fort Benning soldiers. Who were your customers?
Yeah, a lot of Fort Benning soldiers. Because during those days, they were always come out looking for drugs,
And you were there.
Yes.
Okay, so we move along. How long did you stay on that path? You started 14. By the time you got to what age were you? It was just your lifestyle.
24. I think what stopped me is being falsely accused of a crime and locked away.
So that was what stopped you. Okay, so you're on the streets of Columbus, and we had you on about a year ago when you first got out of jail after having been locked up for 35 years. He did wrong things, but he says they did the old okey doke. They put him in jail on something that he did not do because they were cleaning up the streets of Columbus at that time.
Yes.
And there were other people who were saying that I'm being falsely accused, that evidence is being planted. Those were stories out there. I don't know how true they were, but you say in your case it was true. So you eventually became a pimp, huh?
Yes.
So how did that happen? You're selling drugs, now you're a pimp.
Yes, I met 3 Caucasian females, and due to my dress style, always flamboyantly dressed, and they had been seeing me around, so one day they approached me, asked me was I a pimp. I told them no, and we got into a conversation, and they had ran off from their pimp, and they needed some protection, so they asked me would I be their pimp. And I had dated a woman that was a former prostitute, and she had gave me a lot of information about
How
what
to be
was
a
going
pimp.
on. Right.
Oh, wow.
So I felt like I could do it. So I took them up on that offer.
Paul. So, okay, when you look back, you say, oh man, what was I thinking? So 3, and especially back in the day, even in the 70s, that was not that much longer after the turbulent 60s when there was such racial tension. For a black male to say, I am going to pimp these 3 white females,
Right.
you were taking a huge risk. You'd have been better off trying to pimp a black female, but you're going to pimp 3 white females. What were you thinking?
Well, it seemed like it was the thing to do because
That made you even bigger man, huh? You took a bigger risk. Wow.
I just didn't realize the complications about it. And back then I was bodacious because I was even dating married women, so I was all about taking a chance. That's what I did. But had I known, you know, looking back in retrospect, if I had known I was going to run into the brick wall that I ran into, I would never have went down that road.
Wow. Wow. Well, did you ever hear from those 3 Caucasian prostitutes? What happened to them? And then we're going to talk about how it landed you in jail. What happened to the women?
We communicated for a little while when I was in prison. And since I've been out, I haven't seen any of them, as a matter of fact, other than the one that I've dated that was a former prostitute. She's the only one that I've seen.
Wow, wow. Okay. All right. What happens? Paul Austin grows up in Columbus, good family, decides I'm going to be a drug dealer, then decides I'm going to pimp, and part of my harem is going to be 3 white women. How did you get on the police radar to the point that they decided you're going down, and they took you down?
Well, back then I was known for driving a Cadillac, Continental, a Riviera, so, and dressing flamboyant. So when the police started seeing white women in my car, they started pulling me over, you know, without any traffic violation, questioning me and looking at the white women thinking that, you know, had
what are you doing?
Kidnapped them or something. Yeah. So they would start asking me, where do I work? How do I afford the clothes and cars I'm driving? And I would always give them a sarcastic remark, but I didn't realize that they would go to the extreme to frame me for something I didn't do.
So what happened? What happened in your point of view, which the Innocence Project came along 30-something years later, because it took a while, and proved that you were telling the truth. What are you saying police did to you?
Okay, they just one day popped up at my house and arrested me. And upon the arrest, I was asking what did I do? They wouldn't tell me. But when I got to the police station, they started interrogating me. And I was like, sexual assault? Man, I said, ain't no way that I could go to prison for that. I said, because ain't nobody gonna believe that. I said, I got too many women. And I had some witnesses that would have came forward and testified, but the
So someone accused you of raping them? Mm-hmm. Okay, and who was this someone?
It was 2 black women. And the lawyer kept trying to get me to take 20 years on a plea bargain. I told him, man, I can't take a year for something I didn't do. So he said, he did tell me that if you go to try and get convicted,
that's it.
You will never get out of prison. He did say that. And it seemed like his word became reality.
Wow. So did you ever wonder why these black females, what was in it for them, Paul?
Well,
were they questionable characters? Had they been on the street?
I'm not sure. I didn't even know them. As a matter of fact, one of my sisters ran into one of them some months later after I was convicted, and she told my sister that the prosecutor is the one that manipulated her to say that I was the perpetrator and that she don't really know who did it. And she was going to give a statement, an affidavit rather. And,
that it was not you?
Right, but before my sister was able to obtain the affidavit, the girl Cynthia, she got killed in a car
Oh
crash.
My goodness, so you have a witness. She recants the story and says, I was manipulated by authorities, and she dies in a car wreck. Oh my goodness. So you find yourself in jail, but they got that pimp off the street, didn't they?
Right.
They got the pimp off the street. And if you didn't grow up in Columbus, there was a time when Victory Drive, they called it the stroll. Right. It was just prostitution going up and down Victory Drive. Downtown, the way we see it now, it's beautiful. Right. And that was another stroll. A lot of prostitution, a lot of drugs. And there was a big push to try to clean up Columbus. And then some of the pimps, I remember doing some early stories. There was another pimp who had actually bought one of the hotels on
Judge.
Okay, yes. And he was constantly saying that they are harassing me, you know, not for what I'm doing, because you can catch me for what I'm doing wrong, but trying to harassing me in a way that is illegal for the police to harass me. I don't know what happened to him, but I talked to him, I remember, on the streets. So there was a big push to clean up Columbus, and you feel you were part of that sweep. We're going to get these Negroes off the street, you know, and you end up in what jail?
They sent me to Georgia State Prison, which was known as the most dangerous prison in Georgia,
Ooh.
and one of the most dangerous prisons in the United States.
Wow.
And they put me in a dormitory where there was some problems going on. You know, I could have got killed in that dorm because the way they were doing it. Anytime a black would stick up a white, then the whites would retaliate. They would stick any black that they could get to.
Wow.
You know, they catch you in the wrong spot. They would just
So there was
get
a
you.
lot of brutality inside
Right.
the prison. Oh my goodness. Whew, what a story. There's so much I need to get in. I've got about 5 minutes to get this in. Okay, so
This
so
is one
you
thing I want to say.
Okay.
When I got the GSP, I started working on my case, and I couldn't find out when I got my records. The police reports show that one of the victims said the perpetrator was dark skinned, and the other one said the perpetrator was light skinned, and said he had a handkerchief tied over his nose and mouth, and were wearing blue jean tennis shoes and a t-shirt, and were driving a GTO with loud pipes. And everybody know me, I have never owned a car with loud pipes. And blue jeans and tennis shoes was something I didn't wear. I quit wearing tennis shoes when I was probably about 13.
Wow.
But
And you
the
definitely
lawyer-
were not a dark-skinned person.
Right, but the
Wow.
lawyer, he didn't bring this up. He didn't let the jury know anything about it, or the judge, and then he did not subpoena my witnesses. That would have put me at the Oasis Club over there on, what is that, North Lumpkin Road? Would have put me at the Oasis Club as
Wow.
opposed to the crime scene.
So how did you get the attention of the Innocence Group? Because people all over the world want them to take
Right.
their case. But you finally, what year into prison was that?
It was in the 90s when I first wrote them.
And it takes a while for them to decide this is a case we're going to take. What
Right.
year did they finally take it?
After they turned me down the first time, about 8 years later, I wrote them.
Ooh.
And it was probably around about sometime in 2007, because they took my case in 2008.
Wow, wow. So how does a man behind bars feel knowing there's a little hope? There was no hope yesterday, but
Right.
there's a little hope today.
Oh, it made me feel jubilant because I knew that they intended for me to die in prison. And that's not a good feeling. I had seen quite a number of guys perish in prison, and some of them had been down so long that their family did not obtain the body, so they were buried in the prison cemetery, which is just, they put you in the graveyard and put a white cross up over your grave.
And
No
that's
one can
it.
go visit you or anything because there's no name or anything on the.
Wow, wow, wow. So what piece of evidence do you think it was, Paul, that convinced authorities this man did not rape these women? He's been in jail for 30 years.
Is, well, the attorney, Miss Amy, she was the main one that stayed on the case out of the 3 attorneys originally. And she was having problems with these people every time she came down here. They was giving her the runaround. So
In Muskogee County, you feel?
so she was convinced that something wasn't right because of the way they were lying to her.
Wow.
And that's what made her stick with it. And finally, victory
Tell me the
fell
day
my way.
when you knew you were walking out of prison. Tell me about that feeling that it's real.
It made me feel like I was born again, you know, just being able to walk out without handcuffs, shackles, waist chains, you know. They change up like you less than an animal anytime you transferring or got to go out to the medical or something. And I just really felt, it's undescribable. I really can't describe it.
Wow, wow. And I know one thing, once he got out and we talked, you don't want to be the only one that's out. He has friends that he's hoping can get some publicity, that someone can look at their cases too. Tell us about the books. Where can they get your books?
They can be purchased at Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Also, I sell them myself.
And the
Whatever.
names of the books are The Raw Truth,
Right.
okay, and then Injustice in Georgia.
In Georgia, and Message to the Black Male Teens in America.
Wow. Okay. Before we go, I do want you to know that he has a GoFundMe. let's continue a little talk about this tomorrow. This is his GoFundMe page. And you know what, Columbus? We ought to be ashamed of ourselves. That is sad and pitiful. $175 has been given to help him. People give more on crazy things like a new recipe for pizza. You know, $175. He was in jail 35 years. The state of Georgia still does not compensate. That has been tied up in the legislature for years. He hasn't gotten any money from the state. He hadn't gotten any money from the federal government because he was wrongly incarcerated. And guess what? Nobody wants to hire him. So what do? Who do you live with? You got to find a cousin, an auntie, an auntie, or somebody who has some love.
That's right.
And say, I still got to eat. And I still got to bathe. Somebody needs to help me. I tell you.
Right.
Well, Paul, thank you so much. There's so much more to his story. How can they keep up with you? Do you have a Facebook page?
Yes.
And is it under Paul Austin? Facebook page, Paul Austin. Now, he's the brother of Dallas Austin. That's another part of the source of pain that he has. His brother's a multi-millionaire. He is a music producer in Atlanta, and he's almost like a king who lives there. And this is his brother. And Dallas grew up, you say, in the same household over in, we call it E-Dub. East Winton. Okay.
Right.
Oh, in the dub, the W. Okay. Yeah, I got that part of me too. Okay. Grew up in E-Dub, and
right.
but there's no help from your brother because money does talk. That could have been something to help him get out of prison early, or even to help him now to just try to live. But thank you so much, everyone. I did not get a lot of the comments today just because we got started a little late today, and I wanted to make sure that you could hear his story. I'm going to post his GoFundMe page information on my page. Just go to GoFundMe, Paul Austin. Go to his Facebook page. Get the book, Injustice in Georgia, The Raw Truth, Message to the Young Black Male. And those are ways that you can indirectly help him to sustain himself after having been wrong for 35 years until he finds out how he's going to make this new life work for him now. Thank you so much. I got 10 minutes to get ready for the WLTZ noon news. Okay. We usually don't go this late, but we had a couple of problems with our computers today. And thank you so much, everyone. Linda Phillips says, I'm sorry. Linda Best Henry, hello. Thank you so much. Share this page. And there are a lot of people who are wrong and should be behind bars, but there are people who are not guilty.
That's right.
And behind bars unjustly. Thank you so much, Paul Austin.
Thank you very much.
And we'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.